While playing cello in an orchestra, Edward Kelsey Moore was orchestrating finishing up his debut novel, The Supremes at Earl's All You Can Eat. We were happy to meet Clarice, Barbara Jean, and Odetta and get caught up in their lives.
I wrote this novel partly because I come from a family of readers. In fact, my earliest memory is of going to get my first library card when I was 5 years old. I also remember throwing a huge fit in the library because I discovered when I got there that not only did I have to be 5 years old to get my card, I also had to be able to write my full name unassisted, which I hadn't learned to do yet. So after lots of screaming and crying, because I was just that kind of little boy, my mother took me to the main reading room of the Indianapolis Public Library, which is an incredible old room with these creepy sphinxes and mummies decorating the bookshelves because it was built during the first King Tut craze. And in that room, my mother taught me to write my full name that morning so I could get that first library card. I remember this as the story of how I began my love affair with books, but my mother remembers it as a story about what a brat I was when I was a kid. I also come from a family of big talkers, although the only family story I used in The Supremes at Earl's All You Can Eat was a story about my great Aunt Edith. Aunt Edith's husband died while saying his prayers one night and beside the bed, and like my character Minnie McIntyre did with Big Earl, Aunt Edith left her husband there overnight because she figured that if she let anybody know about it, he'd still be just as dead and she'd have lost a good night's sleep. But even though I didn't use other family stories in the book, I did want to convey the excitement and fascination I felt when I was a kid eavesdropping on the women in my extended family while they cleaned up after the big family gatherings. I remember how often really serious and heartbreaking stories would be told in a way that had everybody falling on the floor laughing afterwards. And that was the spirit I wanted to capture. That feeling of hearing a story told across the dining table or at the kitchen counter. Because I believe that's an experience that everyone, regardless of race or culture, can relate to.
This novel has been recognized by the New York Times. It was also a Barnes & Noble Discover Great New Writers selection and is awarded the 2014 First Novelist Award by the Black Caucus of the American Library Association. It was also named 2014 Illinois Reads Book by the Illinois Reading Council. Mr. Moore's essays and short fiction have appeared in New York Times and a number of literary magazines. Mr. Moore is an accomplished cellist in a string quartet and has performed internationally. He still performs with the Chicago Sinfonetta, the New Black Music Repertory Ensemble, and the Joffrey Ballet Orchestra. This musician-author hails from Indianapolis, Indiana, and currently lives in Chicago, Illinois, where he is finishing up his second novel. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to this year's new author of the year, Edward Kelsey Moore.